Forged in blood and violence are the flesh-tearers, the battle-hungry warriors of Cretaceia. Their bloodline cursed and their actions condemned almost beyond redemption, they stand on the brink of censure and extermination. Only through constant battle can their lust for war be sated, yet sometimes even that is not enough. The flesh-tearers are violence made manifest. Of all the damned sons of Sanguinius, they carry the burden of their sire's thirst and the shadow of his passing most heavily. A blood angel's successor. Chapter forged in the second founding, the genetic flaw in the flesh-tearers has rendered them savage beyond compare. They fight as mad butchers, ripping apart their foes in a vain effort to quiet the fury in their blood. In battle, the whir of their chain weapons is lost beneath guttural snarls of hate, and the pain of the red thirst and black rage that is the truth of their tattered souls. The flesh-tearers' reputation for brutality precedes the approach of their battle-scarred warships. On more than one occasion, the enemy body count has not been enough to sate their bloodlust, and many are the Imperial commanders who have thought themselves saved, only to watch in horror as the warrior angels sent to liberate them succumb to their curse. Lost in the throes of slaughter, the flesh-tearers often fail to recognize a battle's end, turning their weapons on their allies and even the humans who thought them angelic saviors. They kill until nothing remains but bloodied ground, churned viscera, and the fading thrum of their hearts. This is their truth, the core of their beings, not the imagined half-divinity believed by the masses, but the red truth of angels of death lost in a dream of suffering and slaughter. The chapter has labored to limit and contain such incidents. When possible, they fight alone, standing unaided against innumerable odds rather than risk the lives of those they have pledged to protect. At other times, they have employed more extreme measures to keep their secret, annihilating planets, systems, and star clusters in a hail of cyclonic warheads. If it's such measures that have kept the flesh-tearers within the tolerance of the High Lords of Terror, or the fact that the Imperium has need of every blade to defend it, none can say for certain. They teeter on the abyss of denouncement and persecution as traitors. To some members of the Inquisition, there is no doubt that the flesh-tearers are abominations. These inquisitors see these broken sons of blood as proof positive that the entire line of Sanguinius is tainted. Were it not for the influence and efforts of the blood angels themselves, and the fact that the Imperium sorely needs the sons of Sanguinius to hold back the press of chaos, who can say how swiftly judgment would be done? Those within the blood and ash ranks of the flesh-tearers are themselves divided. Some dare to cradle hope that their chapter master, Gabriel Seth, will lead them to salvation. They stand proud that they have the strength to fight on the side of the righteous despite the madness in their blood. Others welcome a swift, blood-fueled end, asking nothing more than the chance to wreak terrible destruction upon their enemies before the thirst claims them. Which angel of their hearts will rule their fate, murder or mercy? Only time shall tell. But the sands of those times run swift as the dark millennium closes, and even the most optimistic sanguinary priests within the chapter know that extinction may take them before damnation or salvation arrives. The flesh-tearers' relationship with the other successor chapters is strained at best. The sons of Cretaceia have fallen far from the artisan angel that spawned them, and they stand as a dark mirror of what all sons of Sanguinius might one day become. It is not a reflection other scions of Sanguinius can look upon without fearful shame. Worse still is the attention that the flesh-tearers have drawn from the wider Imperium. Continued animosity between the flesh-tearers and members of the Inquisition have drawn the eye of judgment to the descendants of the angel and the flaw in their blood. Indeed, it was only through the intervention of Astorath, at the trial of the Carmine Court, when Seth stood before Dante and every other chapter master of the successors, that prevented the flesh-tearers from being cast out and destroyed. Whatever the Redeemer knows or has seen of the future, whatever plans he has for Seth and his army of slaughterers, they are a mystery to even Lord Dante himself. The flesh-tearers' homeworld of Cretaceia is a death world. It's a land of gargantuan beasts, magma geysers, and volatile electrical storms. Volcanic eruptions and sharp tectonic shifts threaten to rip apart its continents and swallow those arrogant enough to inhabit its surface. Until Chapter Master Amit found the planet in the wake of the Horus heresy, the flesh-tearers had been a crusading force moving from war zone to war zone without respite. At the time, Amit and his flesh-tearers were still reeling from the death of their primarch and the dissolution of the legions that resulted in the flesh-tearers being carved from the blood angels. Anger and resentment ruled, and Amit became obsessed with Cretaceia, believing its barbaric conditions a manifestation of the flesh-tearer's own nature, hoping that if he could tame its peaks, he could temper the edges of his own fury. The indigenous Cretaceans are resourceful, tribal people, bred to fight and survive the harsh dangers of their homeworld. Those who survive the trials and their stint as flesh-tearer aspirants are ruthless, hardened survivors, the perfect stock from which to forge new flesh-tearers. There is an irony, perhaps, in the journey of these individuals, to survive hell and its beasts, only to become beasts themselves and descend into a life far worse than any mortal hell. The Black Rage, the first death. Every son of Sanguinius fears succumbing to the waking memory of their primarch's death at the hands of Horus. Those visions of an angel broken, of future glories choked by betrayal, overtake Sanguinius's descendants and leave them with nothing but rage. The nobility of angels becomes the fury of beasts. Purity of vision becomes a world drowned in blood. For the flesh-tearers, such a fate is almost a certainty, and the only escape is to die before that fate overtakes them. It is a matter of when, not if. For those that the kind edge of death does not take, the black armor and the sacraments of the death company await. Where the blood angels and their successor chapters succumb to the black rage during the pre-battle ceremony of Moripatris, a flesh-tearer can be claimed at any moment. Many are those who fall to the curse of their blood before they can pass into the death company. And the death company is well named, as its warriors will die as surely as they bring death. Clad in black and crossed with crimson, they know no limit to slaughter nor pain of wounds. The blood angels and most of their successors give swift mercy to the few members of the death company who survive an engagement. A bolt round to the head or a powered blade to the neck grants them swift oblivion. No such mercy exists amongst the flesh-tearers. Under the watch of High Chaplain Apollos, the flesh-tearers' death company live on from battle to battle, bound to their torment until enemies do what their brothers will not. To Apollos, the black-armored madmen represent the purest state of a flesh-tearer. They are as close as a warrior can be to Sanguinius. Whether Seth agrees with Apollos's dogma or whether he sees hope in a death company's fury that no others can, he keeps his own counsel. Whatever his reasons, the chapter master has stood against Astaroth the Grim, the great reaper himself, to prevent the flesh-tearers' death company from facing execution, and their numbers grow unchecked save by the blades of their enemies. So while the flesh-tearers stand at barely 2/3 of full chapter strength, none save Apollos know how many black-armored warriors wait in torment to be unleashed. While the names of most chapter masters of the Space Marines are synonymous with glory and honor, Gabriel Seth's reign is one marked by tragedy, loss, and the dimming light of redemption. Seth rose through the ranks of the flesh-tearers to take command of a chapter on the brink of extinction. The crucible of battle and the ravages of the Black Rage, a genetic flaw in the bloodline of Sanguinius, had reduced the flesh-tearers to less than 3 full companies. Worse, they had butchered their way to the very edge of what their allies could tolerate. And the flesh-tearers were but one misstep from being a chapter alone. Cast from the Imperium, they had bled to protect and forgotten by those they had once called brothers. Seth took on the mantle of chapter master with the knowledge of the full horror that awaited him and his brothers. The chapter's sanguinary priests presented Seth with evidence that the flaw in the blood of his brothers, already far more aggressive than in the other Blood Angels' successor chapters, would continue. Combined with the attrition rate of a chapter ever locked in combat, the flesh-tearers' ability to replace their losses could not keep up with the number who met their final death. What had been a slow descent to bloodlust and oblivion was an ever-quickening fall into inevitable extinction or damnation. Yet Seth was resolved. He would not accept such truths as fate. There could be victory and defeat. He would carry his brother's burden. He would shield his charges from the full truth of their nature. If glory was beyond the flesh-tearers, Seth would seek survival. If forgiveness was impossible, they would earn their future through penance. If, at the dark of the hour, The beast in their blood claimed them all. Seth would see them die with honor. At worst, the flesh-tearers would be remembered as brutal angels, not beasts. In battle, Seth is a force of raw fury, destroyer, berserker, slaughterer, the flesh-tearers. The chapter master of the flesh-tearers has earned honorifics that mark him as terrible a foe as any monster in the universe. The truth is, he is those things and more. He fights at the vanguard of the flesh-tearers' forces, cutting, hacking, bludgeoning, until there is nothing to kill. He has crushed skulls beneath his boot, snapped necks with vengeful hands, and smashed armor plate and bone with thunderous headbutts. Yet for all his rage, Seth has ever managed to maintain some semblance of control. Those that underestimate him as a mindless killer find themselves surprised, outmatched by a savage cunning that knows no mercy. When all is done, when the cacophony of battle fades to whisper, and the blood of the dead soaks the earth, it is Seth alone who holds the flesh-tearers together. Should he fall in battle, the bloody ramifications will be felt far beyond the chapter. Where the Imperium once sheltered behind the violence of Seth and his butchers, it might well find itself with monsters in its midst. Thank you so much for watching. If you are enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. It really does make a difference. We continue. You stand as insult to everything we have suffered. Gabriel Seth's voice was churned gravel. He addressed the primaris space marine before him in the reclusium, the deep crimson and black of his armor newly painted, unmarked by war. You do not deserve the symbol you now bear on your pauldron. Seth stepped to within striking distance of the other space marine. The ash and blood of my brothers has no place on your armor, Captain. Anger twisted the captain's face as he struggled to make sense of Seth's tirade. I am brother Captain Tuavo, and I stand before you as Lord Guilliman. Guilliman, Seth snarled. His name will buy you no brotherhood here. Then what of Dante? He wills this also. He is by blood and honor your... Dante can choke on the blood of Baal. This is my house. These are my warriors. Seth gestured around him. It is their blood, their lives you would have me entrust to you. Tuavo made to speak and faltered, caught off guard by the hatred Seth demonstrated for the Primarch and the Lord of the Blood Angels. You believe Guilliman's slight has gone unnoticed? That there are none learned enough here among my butchers? Seth grinned. Tuavo. Old Terran, from the northern continents meaning hope. Guilliman has sent you and your blood here to heal us. Seth closed, his head just below Tuavo's jaw. Yet your blood weakens us. Tuavo clenched his fists. I am no happier about this than you. I would have gladly remained one of the unnumbered, a son of Sanguinius clad in angel red. Then leave here. Seth dug his forehead into Tuavo's chest and drove him back with a sharp headbutt. Would that I could. Tuavo sucked in a breath and felt the rising beat of his blood lessen. With respect, Chapter Master, test me no further. Seth shook his head. You are here to be tested. Confusion creased Tuavo's brow. If you are to stand with us, you will fight with me. You would have me fight you. Seth nodded, as the blood wills it. This is madness, I will not. Then you will die a coward. As Seth spoke, Chaplain Apollos emerged from one of the alcoves bordering the chamber and levelled a plasma pistol at Tuavo. Heresy! Tuavo shot a glance over his shoulder to the doors. They will not open, said Seth. Lord Dante and Lord Guilliman will have your head. They are not here, impostor. I am, and I will kill you. Damn you! Tuavo bared his teeth. You think that anger, Space Marine? You think this betrayal? For the briefest of moments, the ire faded from Seth's features. We are damned by our own genes. The very blood in our veins will rob us of all that we are, as quick as a blade in the darkness. Tuavo looked to Apollos. The chaplain's intent was unreadable under the cold slab of his skull helm. Only the dead and the damned find refuge with the chaplain. Which shall we number you among? Very well. Tuavo widened his stance and edged to Seth's left. Your reputation precedes you, Chapter Master. I have heard tales of the unstoppable butcher driven by rage and fury, a broken angel whose fists can crush ceramite, but here now you look small. Tuavo kept moving, sizing up Seth. We primaris were made to be better than you. There is no arrogance in that. By the will of the Emperor and the labours of Lord Guilliman, I am simply stronger than you. Seth locked eyes with Tuavo, eyes that had seen untold acts of violence and bloodletting, and grinned. Are you? Seth saw it then. A momentary flash on Toivo's face. Weakness, doubt. Seth roared. He shot forward, smashing a fist into Toivo's nose. Bone broke. He struck him again. A hammer blow across the base of his jaw. Toivo tried for space, but Seth grabbed his pauldron, fixing him in place as he delivered a second and third hammer blow with his fist. Toivo threw an uppercut into Seth's ribs. "Is that it?" Seth maintained his hold. "Is that it?" He continued to hammer him. Seth kept on punching until his blows robbed Toivo of consciousness. Seth felt his opponent go limp. He hit him once more and then dropped him to the ground. Toivo went down hard, his head bouncing off the flagstones. Strength and theory are not enough. Intent is everything. Seth snarled and brought his knee up. "Gabriel!" Apollos shouted. "Enough!" Seth stamped down, cracking the flagstones a breath from Toivo's head. Toivo groaned, consciousness slowly returning. "To fight as one of us is to strike first and keep on striking until only blood remains." Seth glared down at Toivo. The primaris Space Marine's face was a lumpen mess, his features barely recognizable. Seth growled through gritted teeth and knelt, calmer, next to Toivo. He lowered his voice to a whisper. "Did it ever occur to you that if you are stronger, if indeed you are one of us and more, that perhaps when the darkness comes for you, it will come for us all? That the curse will be stronger too? In the dark of your soul, how long before the beast calls and your veins and armor turn to black? Toivo made to speak, his eyes glazed with a mix of rage and sorrow, but he could force no words through the ruin of his jaw. Seth smiled. "Now you look like one of us, brother." The chapter master stood and made for the exit. "Apollos, help our new captain to his feet." Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment below.